Hey everyone, welcome to the Purple Valley Whispers. I'm Kirsten, and I know you're probably wondering where Randy is. She's been super busy as a nurse, and she's been dealing with a lot of migraines lately. Plus, her cars are acting up, but she will be back soon. Today, though, I'm really excited because we're diving into a really intriguing and serious topic. It's about a 6-year-old boy who vanished without a trace on his first day at school. We are calling this the Lost Child of Paynesville, the disappearance of Jackie Theel.
People in the valley, they don't understand what makes and takes the breaks and forsakes a man. People in the valley, they don't understand.
All right. Have you ever heard of Paynesville, Minnesota? Well, it's this little town in the heart of Minnesota that attracts thousands of visitors every year. It's about 30 miles from St. Cloud and also Wilmer, and just 85 miles northwest of Minneapolis. It has an amazing history that goes back over 2,000 years to the Hopewell culture. The town was actually founded in 1857 by a man named Edward E. Payne. And fun fact, if you couldn't tell, it's named after him. Paynesville has quite a backstory too, as it used to be part of the Dakota people's homeland. Back in 1862, during the Dakota War, the residents had to evacuate for their safety. Sadly, the town burned down, but somehow Paynesville bounced back and they kept a post office running since 1857. You know, there's this sad and tragic event that happened in Paynesville that's worth discussing. It's about Jacob Wetterling, and it's such an important story to share. You probably have heard of him. He is an 11-year-old boy who went missing in 1989. A resident of Paynesville was ultimately arrested and convicted in this case, which officially wrapped up around 2015. This sad event brought to light Jackie Theel's case as well. In December 2015, there was a community meeting at the Paynesville Auditorium where 150 people showed up to hear from Jacob's mom, Patty Wetterling. Paynesville Police Chief Paul Wagner shared how tough things have been for the community. He said, quote, "Do not define who you are as a person and who we are as a community." It was such a emotional for everyone there. Patty Wetterling also said, quote, "I refuse to be silent because there are way more good people than bad in this world, and we need our voices." I have to say, I really admire Patty Wetterling for stepping up to support the Paynesville community after such a terrible loss. Even with her own grief, she's there for others, and that's just incredible. It must have been so painful to deal with what happened to her son, and yet she finds the strength to help others. It really shows how compassionate she really is. But if you ever find yourself in Paynesville, you have to check out the historical downtown district. It was once known as Jimtown, and you can find lots of original buildings that tell the town story. Plus, stop by the Paynesville Museum to learn more about the local history and the cases that have affected the community over the years. And if you're looking for a good meal, I highly recommend stopping at the Hilltop Restaurant. It's a local favorite with plenty of parking and seating, and their breakfast menu is to die for. It adds to the warm, welcoming vibes of this adorable little Minnesota town. Now, let's take a step back to 1944. Paynesville was and is a tight-knit community, especially back then. Speaking of the community, let's talk about the Theel family. Harold and Bernice Theel were hard workers who raised an impressive crew of 14 kids. Can you imagine the craziness in that household? They got married in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin on October 19th, 1925, and kept adding to their family. Harold was an over-the-road truck driver and described him as a man of few words. Bernice was born in Eden Lake, Minnesota. To be honest, there wasn't a lot about Bernice. I wish I could. He was one of those 14 siblings. I feel it's only right to honor everyone affected by this. So here's the full list of Jackie's siblings. There's Donald, Floyd, who are twins, Melton, Tom, Andrea, Annabelle, Carl, Denton, Dorothy, Faye, Judy, Myron, and Norman. Just think about how lively and chaotic that household must have been. Let's talk about Jackie's first day of school. It was a fall day in Paynesville on September 5th, 1944. Little Jackie, only 6 years old, was gearing up for his first day of school. He slipped into a faded navy blue sailor suit, laced up his new black shoes, and was ready to tackle the day ahead. Instead of a proper breakfast, he grabbed a bag of chips. Before sending him off, Bernice made sure to give him a note for his teacher. It was important. It asked for an older brother to walk him home, but as it often happens, things did not go as planned. So I want to go over Miss Dorothy Gelke. She was Jackie's first grade teacher at Paynesville Elementary on Mill Street. This was her first job after finishing her training as a teacher. She was 21 years old in 1944. Miss Gelke let him leave for lunch all by himself. That's definitely not what Bernice had in mind. In her defense, it is unclear if whether Miss Jackie Gelke ever saw the note. I'm going to start the timeline of Jackie's disappearance here with times and dates and stuff like that. So when school wrapped up at 11:30, and I guess back then on certain days they only went half days, Jackie headed out with his classmates, forgetting to wait for his older brother, like his mother had instructed. Miss Gelke asked Jackie twice if he knew the way home. Jackie pointed in the direction he thought was home, but sadly they found out later that he was pointing in the wrong direction. The class walked together for a while until the group split up, at which point Miss Gelke assumed he was on his way home. According to my sources, Jackie was supposed to be home by noon. When Jackie did not arrive for lunch, his mother first called a friend for help. And I cannot locate what brother was supposed to walk him home or where he was during this time. When Jackie had not been found by 3 p.m., she notified Paynesville Mayor Russell. I want to highlight the conflicting accounts regarding Jackie's last known movements. There are 3 witness accounts about Jackie's final whereabouts. So between 11:30 and 1, 2 young girls reported they saw Jackie passing City Hall. Around 1 to 1:30, eyewitness accounts emerged later that created some confusion. Mr. and Mrs. Pete Thomas mentioned seeing a small boy whom they thought might be Jackie walking along the ditch by Highway 23. He was carrying a piece of paper that resembled the registration card he was supposed to bring home. There was local boys' witness accounts, and one source indicates that in the afternoon, exact time was not given, 2 local boys, Robert Burr and William Johnson, saw a boy matching Jackie's description enter a light brown or gray car on Highway 23. Jumping back to Bernice calling the police, unable to locate him, we know that she called the mayor, Russell Portaga, causing the entire community to go into a state of alarm. Portaga, along with several businessmen, began searching for Jackie under the guidance of Stearns County Deputy Ike Lund and Constable Martin Copperdahl. Eventually, the entire town involved in the search. At this point, Harold, Jackie's father, who was working as an over-the-road truck driver in St. Paul, was called home. So the search continues until 1 a.m., making the transition to September 6, 1944, which was a Wednesday. The search resumed at 6 a.m. The Stearns County Sheriff Art leading the investigation and Candioi County Sheriff Paul Anderson assisting. Investigator Jack Burns of Wilmer State Crime Bureau, and William Connolly of the St. Paul Bureau of Criminal and Apprehension, I can't say that word, also doing the search. One of Jackie's sisters, Annabelle, who was 16 when he disappeared, recalled in an interview with Paynesville Press that the day Jackie disappeared was nice, but the following days were rainy and cold. This prompted a massive search effort. So during the day on September 7th, 1944, farmers were asked to search buildings, fields, pastures, grain stalks, pits, wells, swamps. The North Fork River bed and its banks were searched multiple times. The Civil Air Patrol conducted an aerial search for Jackie. The plane piloted by Ray Bracken and Paynesville barber Les Spieth as observer. Boys from Paynesville High School were dismissed to assist with the search, and local businessmen closed their shops for the day to help. The search continued until 1 a.m. So it resumed again, and the Civil Air Patrol in its aerial search for Jackie Boys from Paynesville High School were again dismissed to participate in the search. And then the timeline skips to September 9th, 1944. Scouts from Cold Spring joined the local Boy Scouts in the search efforts. An old cistern was also searched, but I don't really know what that is, to be honest. Skipping again to September 13th, which is Wednesday, so this makes it a week Jackie disappeared. During the day, despite the rainy weather, bloodhounds brought in by Raymond Hill's camp picked up Jackie's scent near the school and followed it to Schwartz Drugstore and the North American Creamery. The trail led to the edge of Crow River, where footprints were found, then to the Evangelical Church and William Johnson's filling station. Although the scent was strong at the filling station, Johnson did not recall seeing Jackie. The bloodhounds continued to follow Jackie's scent, which grew fainter on Highway 23, where it disappeared. The hounds were taken to Hawick to search the ditches on both sides of the highway, but the scent was never picked up again. So then this takes us to September 15th, 1944, which was a Friday. During the day, the Civil Air Patrol conducted another aerial search. Other authorities were brought in to help, and a septic tank near Jackie's school was drained to see if he had fallen in, but he was not found there. At this point, the police stated that Jackie was no longer in Paynesville area and asked other authorities across the state for assistance. So, September 21st, 1944, hope of finding Jackie alive began to fade. Although the search continued, the sources do not indicate when the search for Jackie Theel officially ended. However, they do note that the police no longer have records of their investigation, and their archives only go back to 1960. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension was not the investigating agency and does not have any records pertaining to the case. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation also has no records of this case either.
What?
All right, so let's just go into the theories about what happened to Jackie. Some people think he may have succumbed to the elements, like drowning in the Crow River or getting lost in the woods. So we know that the bloodhounds actually traced his scent right to the river. Then it faded away. It led to a ditch where his scent just vanished. It's curious because searchers thoroughly combed the river, which is pretty shallow in the fall. This makes you wonder if he really did drown when they find a body. That definitely raises some big questions. Now, shifting gears a bit, there's also speculation about parental involvement. It's unfortunate, but this often comes up in cases like Jackie's, leading to all sorts of rumors. I heard that there was whispers that Jackie's dad, Harold, might have had a role in his disappearance. Some suggest he even harmed or sold him. But here's the kicker. Jackie's siblings have stepped up forward, insisting that their father was actually out of town working. And a lot of news sources also say that too. It's a pattern we see too often where parental figures become suspects. But it seems like Harold's alibi holds pretty strong based on what his kids have shared. Now let's talk about one of the more intriguing theories. The possibility that Jackie was kidnapped. The soldier theory. Back during World War II, soldiers could get discharged if they had dependents. Some speculate that perhaps a soldier kidnapped Jackie to secure his discharge. Two teenage boys did report seeing a boy who looked like Jackie getting into a soldier's car on Highway 23 the day he disappeared. The police tracked the car back to a 24-year-old combat veteran. But what's wild is the soldier claimed he was traveling with a younger brother who was also wearing a sailor suit.
What?
Yeah. The authorities never confirmed who that boy was, and unfortunately, that lead just went cold. It's such a puzzling turn of events. Fast forward a few years, we have one of Jackie's former teachers, some people think it's Miss Galkey, who thought she saw a man resembling Jackie get off a Navy ship in California. This man, going by Jackie Theel, claimed he had been adopted. Yet, without any solid proof, it remains just another mystery. And then there's this theory that somebody might have seen him wandering and picking up an ill intention. His family believes it's possible, especially given Jackie's mental challenges. It's really heartbreaking to consider that he might have fallen into the hands of someone who took advantage of him. Another idea suggests that involvement of migrant or transit, maybe even sexual predator. This theory has been discussed in forums like Web Sleuths. There was even a suggestion of kidnap for ransom, but the law enforcement dismissed that right away since the Theel wasn't wealthy enough for such motive. And let's not forget about Miss Galkey, Jackie's teacher. She allowed him to go home alone even after his mother had sent a note asking him to wait for his brother. People really question what Miss Galkey did that day, whether she could have taken more precautions. There's no telling if she felt any guilt over her part in Jackie's disappearance. So the claim that a Paynesville teacher seeing him get off a Navy ship in California and claiming to be Jackie, one user on Web Sleuth raised some doubts about this former teacher story, wondering why, if she truly thought this man was Jackie, she didn't try to stop him or ask him more questions. So there's that. So whatever happened to Miss Galkey, you ask? Well, she did get married to John Minrick in 1950, and they had 5 children, continuing her teaching career until her passing in 2008 at the age of 90. Then there was a possible sighting of Jackie in the 80s. Apparently, someone told Jackie's younger brother, Faye, that a man went into Tuck's Cafe in Paynesville looking for his family, claiming he had the last name Theel. He said he couldn't find any Theels in the phone book, and his sister, Annabelle, were skeptical about this theory, especially since they knew there were Theels listed in the phone book at the time. Honestly, if that sighting was made up, it's shameful. It's definitely puzzling, though. Back in the day, walking home alone was more common. But considering Jackie's needs, it seems like there should have been more caution exercised in his case. So Jackie and his disappearance left a profound impact. But let's start with Jackie's family. It's heartbreaking to think about his mother, Bernice. Hard to imagine what his mother, Bernice, went through after he went missing. The report says that she aged drastically, turning gray almost overnight. Imagine the constant fear she must have felt for her other children. It must have been overwhelming. In fact, 1 year later, her son, Faye, started school. Bernice walked him to school and pretended to be lost, just to see if he could find his way home. That's such an important example of how deeply affected she was. It's like she was trying to ensure that her children were always aware of their surroundings and trying to shield them from the fear she lived with. It wasn't just Bernice who felt the pain. Jackie's siblings were also impacted. His sister Annabelle had a visceral reaction at first. She couldn't believe somebody wouldn't find him, especially in a small town like Paynesville. But it seems to have affected their family dynamic in profound ways. Bernice forbade her other children from wearing sailor suits. That's what Jackie was wearing the day he disappeared. Really shows the depth of her grief. On the other hand, Jackie's father, Harold, was described as a loner and a man of few words. It's said that he and Bernice never talked about Jackie's disappearance, even after 10 or 15 years. That's so heartbreaking. Communication is a key in processing grief, and it seems they were both struggling with their own. 2 of Jackie's siblings, Annabelle and Faye, believe their parents have blamed the teacher for allowing Jackie to walk home that day. Bernice had even sent a note. We know this. It's so easy to point the finger of the tragedy. Unfortunately, Harold and Bernice both passed away in the 90s without ever knowing what really happened to their son. But the search for Jackie continues. Many of his siblings are still alive and refusing to give up hope. One of his sisters, Judy, shared that Jackie's story is ingrained in their family history. She mentioned that it changed the way her parents raised her, and it also influenced how she raised her own children. It's powerful. It's incredible how one event can ripple through generations. Judy's perspective really sheds light on the lasting impact of loss. It's not just Judy. The son of Jackie's brother, Tom, Gary Theel, recalls that whenever his family visited his grandparents, his father would talk about Jackie's disappearance. He felt that there was a cloud hanging over their family, and he reflected on how that might have made them guarded as children. That makes sense. Families often carry the weight of their shared history, and it's fascinating to see how it shaped their lives. Jackie's story is a reminder of unresolved pain that lingers in families and the importance of addressing grief openly. Over the years, Jackie's story became a topic of conversation, but not in the way anyone hoped. It left an inedible mark on Paynesville collective memory, a continuous reminder of tragedy that never found closure. It's chilling. Jackie's story serves as a reminder of vulnerability of children and how even safe communities can experience unimaginable tragedy. It's a tough pill to swallow, and while Jackie's case remains unsolved, the impact it has on his family and community is a legacy of grief that persists. As we wrap up today's episode, let's reflect on the haunting story of Jackie Theel, whose disappearance continued to cast a shadow over Paynesville, Minnesota. Despite nearly 80 decades passing, the mystery surrounding his vanishing act remains unsolved, leaving his family and community searching for answers. Each theory surrounds his fate, from accidents to abductions, offers only a fragment of hope, while unverified sightings over the years added to the enigma. The impact of Jackie's case on his family, especially his mother, is profound and serves as an important reminder of the emotional toll unsolved mysteries can take on loved ones. It's a call to action for all of us. If you have any information about Jackie's disappearance, please reach out to the Stearns County Sheriff Office. Together, shared stories, and renewed vigilance, we can honor Jackie's memory and continue to seek the truth that excludes so many for so long. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, let's keep the conversation going because every story deserves to be heard. Thank you.